Everyone, welcome to another episode of the Managing Partners Podcast. My name is Kevin Daisey, and I'm your host. Always looking to bring you a great guest, and today I have a really cool guest that's going to bring a different topic to the table that I'm excited to talk about. We have Diane on the show today. So, Diane, thanks for coming and joining me on the show today.
Kevin, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and so Diane we had connected because we had another guest from your firm on the show recently, and I think she passed my name along, and me and Diane connected on some potential marketing ideas and things that they might need that we might be able to help them with. But through that talk, really thought she'd be a great guest for the show and share kind of what she's done for multiple firms as head of marketing or CMO level. And I thought it was really intriguing. So I wanted to have her come on today and share what she knows and what she's done and help some of these firms be very successful in business development. So that's the topic today, business development, not just for partners, attorneys, but associate level. And really, Diane, like anybody in the firm could participate.
Absolutely. Yeah. And really anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our topic today. We'll get into that in just a few minutes after we learn more about Diane. But business development, think about your whole firm all the way down to associate level. We're going to dive in deep to that, and she's going to give you some great information. So, Diane, so I guess first off, we want to know more about you and your background, how you got to be where you are, your title now with Phillips Nizer. Everyone, if you're tuning in right now, it's phillipsnizer.com. You can go check out her website. She's also on the site, so if you want to connect with her, her contact information is on there as well. LinkedIn is a great place to find her as well. This will be on LinkedIn, and she'll be tagged as well. So Diane, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
So it's interesting. I didn't come to this kind of marketing from a straight line. So I started as an accountant. I have a CPA license in New York. You would never think an accountant would then go over to the marketing side. But early on in my career, after I got certified, I went worked for a very large company. I worked for Chase Bank. And I got into an area of marketing called product management. And to kind of fast forward, I worked in the corporate marketing world for a while, ended up getting a master's degree with a marketing focus, and then found professional services marketing while I lived out in California. I kind of fell into a job with an accounting firm doing their marketing. And I will tell you, at that time, I did not even think that accounting firms did marketing. So here I am now combining my CPA license and my marketing experience. So, I've been doing this now for quite a number of years. And I tell you, it's been such a great fit for me, the whole professional services. And now I'm in with law firms. So, kind of finding out what the similarities are, any differences, but it's an interesting synergy between accountants and lawyers. And I'm finding that I am learning a lot here and I'm doing some different things, but a lot of it is very similar. Which I'm enjoying.
Excellent. Well, and yeah, just for the sake for Philip Nizer, to understand that firm, again, we had Regina on.
Right. Yeah.
We're a partner with the firm, but employment law is a big focus for the firm there, correct?
Yeah, employment law is very big. It's a growing practice for us. Regina is heading that up. And I work a lot with Regina and her team as well. In fact, we're doing a couple of events coming up in the fall. So they're a pretty active team in marketing and business development. The other kind of big areas here, excuse me, real estate. Being in New York City, you can't get away from real estate, right? So we're very big in real estate. Also litigation practice, the trust and estates area. And we have a really good matrimonial area as well, and family law.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah, I just want to kind of, for the viewers tuning in, what kind of firm you all are, and so they get an idea of how this could apply to them. But so let's get into business development and what that means, and how you have kind of built really a system and training for firms, and helped not just put that together, but implement it in the firms that you've worked for. So let's just get into that and how our audience here can do the same for their firms, especially if it's something they've never even thought about.
Absolutely.
Again, something that I never really have seen anyone talk about before. So that's why I love this topic. And I was telling Diane, I was at a networking event this morning, taking a junior person with me to give it out and meet people and get exposed. And so it's definitely something that I enjoy doing. And it's something that's always been part of my business. Even though I do marketing and believe in that strongly, you still have to, build your network and keep those things going. So why business development training, and tell us, really the benefits that you've seen.
Yeah. So how this all started, I'll kind of go back a little bit. When I was working with the accounting firms, obviously for partners, part of the job, besides doing the client work, is also doing business development, bringing in new business, trying to cross-sell, things of that nature. But in the firms that I worked for at that time, it wasn't necessarily expected that the accountants below the partners, so we call them managers, senior managers, what you might call senior associates and associates on the attorney side, wasn't that expected. But however, if they became a partner, it was expected to go out and do it. So there's a big gap between the training that's needed and the nurturing, and then having the expectation of getting the results. So I came in and said, look, let me fill this void for you. Here's what I can do for you. And I put together, I'm going to call it a formalized program, and it's formal only because I really think that in order to break into a new habit, you need to be doing it over and over again, and you need that nurturing, that support and guidance that comes from a kind of a more formalized approach. What was happening is there were certain accountants, and I know it's the same way on the attorney side, they were getting some business development training from a particular partner who they may work a lot with. But they were getting that one point of view. They were getting if they had
probably
a very ad hoc, and if they had the luxury of having a partner who would train them, who would take the time, that was great. But a lot of us attorneys and a lot of accountants didn't have that. So with this program, what this really does is it kind of sets up the accountant, junior accountant, if you will, or the associate attorney, to be ready for if and when that person becomes partner. One of the big things that I teach is, obviously it's business development, but it's networking. And, you kind of want to build it before you need it. So you need to really start. I really emphasize you want to start early on and have that training so that if you do become a partner, you've already got the network, you've already got the training, you're out there, you kind of got over some of the discomfort or the fear, quite frankly, of doing this kind of exercise. I'll call it an exercise, but it's really something for life. I mean, this is something you do kind of forever. And so, I've been carrying that through from firm to firm, and I'm carrying it, at some point over to Phillips Nizer as well, working with the attorneys. I'm doing some one-on-one now with some attorneys, but I want to do more of a group type of thing. I won't get into too many of the details, but part of what I do is to talk to individual associates or the accountant level, the junior accountants, and talk to them about where they're at with business development and networking and what their concerns might be and what their obstacles might be to doing it. And then it provides me with a benchmark. And then from that benchmark, as we start doing the classes, it gets measured against the benchmark. And I've had dramatic results with doing this. And I've had partners say to me, I wish I had this when I was at the point in their career. Nobody really sat down and taught me this. I had to learn the hard way, that kind of thing. So
something really is formalized. It's like a class, like going to school. So
it is. I do a combination of, I'll call it in-class work, and then of course outside work where you're actually applying what you've learned in class outside. And it's over a 6-month, could be up to 8-month period. So it's not a half a day or a 2-hour lunch and learn kind of thing. It's really a program. And one of the things that I found to be extremely beneficial is that the partners are invited to co-teach it with me. And I asked some of the partners who are obviously one of the bigger business development type partners, and they do a great job of just, I call it stories from the trenches. They're talking about how did you get started in this, and what were your obstacles? Because the associates and the manager level accountants would really look up to their partner, and to them they think, oh, they must have been doing this since the day they were born, right? They're so good at it. How can I ever
They have
do
some natural ability, right?
exactly? And so what I wanted to bring out to these younger professionals is that they had to start somewhere like you. And so now they're at a place where, because they've been doing it for so long, they look really good at it, and they get really good results. But this is not something this is something you can do. It's not something that you have to think you're either born with it or not, kind of a thing.
Sure. Well, I think a couple things. You said, it's for life. So say you got if any associates are listening to this podcast, you need to, versus just doing the work, you need to be building your network for your professional career, whether or not you stay at a firm you're at, or you go somewhere else, or start your own business. Having that network and starting as early as possible is massive. It puts you in a totally different position. I mean, imagine if you're an associate bringing in business and that's not required, and then you make partner and you already have a book of business and you know what you're doing, and you can contribute that much faster. But even if you go into a different field and leave the legal field, it's something that is a skill that's going to stick with you and something you need to build.
Absolutely. I mean, in business, in any area of business, it's about relationship building. I mean, really. And, when you build a relationship, it's a longer term commitment. It doesn't mean you're seeing them every day. It could be a once a year, hey, it's a holiday greeting or something. But a lot of the relationship building is also based on kind of this reciprocity of like, I want to help you. And the first class that I teach, I talk to the attendees about how to have the right dialogue with a potential business partner, like an associate level, that wants to also network with you. How do you have that conversation? And it's great to talk about the commonalities. Hey, you live in this town, I live in the next town over. You have kids, I have kids. Those are great things. But at some point, you want to bridge that conversation over to kind of their business world. Hey, how did you get into this business? What are some of the obstacles you're facing to grow your business, and how can I help you? That's the beginning to me of a relationship build in terms of, from a business perspective, and having that longer term view of how we can continue to stay connected and help each other. And so to your point about the being, life and when you leave the firm, wherever, those relationships should stay with you. Those are, if they're real, if they're deep enough and they're real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another point too is, say I could see asking like a partner that brings in a lot of business, probably not even remembering maybe how they got into it or started it, or even like a true process. They've been doing it for a long time. They've built relationships, like you're saying. It might be harder for them to kind of put their finger on, well, I started on this day and now here's what I started doing. They probably don't have that much of a structure to it, versus you would ask one of your associates that's probably done this training years ago. And they probably would be like, well, I took a training and now I have a process, and they probably have a lot more thought going into it.
Yes.
Then if I just say, hey, go find and meet people, like, okay. And so, for this, like, to be formally trained in it, I would think you'd have a lot better success in a short amount of time. I know building my network in a new town took a very long time.
Yeah.
And I probably was just talking to people and didn't have a process by any means. So a lot of things can fall through the cracks. You probably don't follow it with people. What are you really trying to accomplish? And so I could see this being very useful, but also streamlining the process and getting them up to speed much quicker. Because I feel like people go into networking events and forget they're even at one, and they talk to the one person they know that they already knew, and then they walk out of there with really nothing gained from it, and forget really what's the purpose that I'm here. Obviously, you want to help people and build those relationships, but it can be an expense to the firm. So why are you at this event that might
Exactly.
cost X, Y, Z money? We have to have somewhat of an agenda and a process in place. So
Yeah, no, those are really good points. And when I do the training, I cover in each of the different classes different aspects of networking, and one of them is as a whole class, a class and a half on event networking and how to prepare ahead of time. And that what you just said about people going to an event and kind of standing around and hoping somebody walks up to them, and or they just know that one person and they want to stay with that person the whole time. That's what a lot of the younger professionals were doing, or not even going to events at all. And so they were taught, listen, there's research. First of all, see if we can get the attendee list. Take a look at who's speaking. If the speakers are considered thought leaders, they're probably somebody you should know. So maybe make sure you go to the events, the actual sessions, and then afterwards go up to the speaker and just introduce yourself and just kind of give a couple of words about who you are, what they do, and then maybe connect with them afterwards. And so, I found that it's interesting when you say about how they really weren't doing very much networking before, not in the right way. When I started out doing these classes, I asked everybody, okay, so in the last 6 months or 6 months to a year even, how much networking did you do on a regular basis? And I'm going to tell you that 75% of them said nothing at all. Nothing. About 25% of them said, and these are younger, right? About 25% of them might have said, oh, I do some, maybe a couple, 3, 4 times a year kind of a thing with my client. I take them out to lunch, that sort of thing, which is fine. After the 6 months, I had 60% of the attendees were networking 2 times a week on a regular basis. And the rest of them were networking more like every other week, twice a month, let's say.
and I guarantee you that's led to increased business for that firm.
Yes. In fact, the
100%.
first class I took, we had somebody who reached out to a sort of a colleague of hers. Actually, I think it was a client of hers from years ago from another firm, and just to kind of touch base. Out of that came $100,000 job, which in our firm was, in my firm at that time, that's a very big average fee, that's higher than the average fee kind of thing. So there was really, and she said, I never would have reached out to this person had I not been asked to do so as part of the class and the training.
Well, yeah,
So,
they're not expected to normally, right?
right. And
At
that's,
all. Actually, they're probably not encouraged. They're probably discouraged. Just do
they might
you're helping
be.
do the work.
Yeah, they
Right.
might be discouraged because they're chargeable and you want them to get in. Look, they have a lot to learn. They have to learn their area of law, let's say, and how working with clients better. They have a lot to learn. But, I used to say, most people would say, the reason I don't network is I don't have enough time. I said to them, well, do you eat? Yes. Do you eat lunch? Yes. Well, how about going over lunch or over breakfast or have a cup of coffee afterwards, after work or something like that? And I think it's more the discipline of just doing it. And I think once it was the discipline and then the fear of being rejected. What if I reach out? They don't reach out back, and that sort of thing. And that rarely happens. You reach out to somebody in a genuine way, you want to connect, you're in the same field, let's say, they usually will connect with you. Most people will. And so I think by far most people, it was a very positive experience, and it did change their careers. And for some people, it actually changed their lives because it's personal. It's a personal thing.
Well, well, I've been a good student since I talked to you. I took a law firm client to lunch yesterday. The firm part owner and their administrator, and of course saw folks during that time that I knew that they knew that we could talk with, and then I had a networking event this morning at 7:45 in the morning, which I took a younger basically associate to. So yeah, it's either got to be mornings, lunch, or after work. If you're willing to put in the extra time, it's going to pay off for them. So that's something to think about too. So I wanted to kind of touch on a couple other things that you had, because Diane sent me a nice little list of things to cover here, which I appreciate as a guest. But some of the other benefits too that I thought were interesting was like things around retention. So imagine you have a bunch of associate attorneys, you're offering this kind of training to them to help them build up their network, get out of their shell, meet people, and then start to work towards being a partner and contributing to the firm and bringing in business. I would assume that does a lot for retention. And so, what did you see on that side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think what the associates really liked, or the accountants at that time, was that the firm was investing in them, and that meant a lot to them. And because they were contributing to a sort of a higher level objective, which is either, growing the firm, working more with our clients better. Um, I think they felt they had, I'll call it, like, more skin in the game. So, and that with that, deeper connection with the firm. There are a lot of folks who I taught in the very first class that I did many years ago who are still with their firms and their partners now. And so, to me personally, I mean, it's such a gratifying thing. But, for the managing partners or who are on this call, think about your pipeline. Think about enriching that pipeline. Yes, you have your partners out there, but what if you can vision the next level down, if you will, to be part of that pipeline growth?
Oh yeah.
You
Imagine
know,
what they could
that's
do in the next 5 to 10 years.
exactly. And a
Growing
lot
that.
of them, what we did, what one of the big things that was kind of eye-opening is that this program and doing it in this fashion really helped to identify those practitioners who could really be great business developers, but just needed that starting point. They needed just some help. They didn't know where to start, or they had some discomfort in kind of meeting new people and not knowing what to say. So this really helped them kind of get over that. And the fact that they were doing it month after month after month for 6 months, it just became it became easier. The benchmark that I have is midway through, and I've seen this with every class that I've done. I had many of the practitioners say to me, I'm doing this 3 months now. I'm completely confident in this. I can do this. You can send me anywhere, any event. I'm fine. I can go to this now. And it's usually at that midpoint that they started to say that. So then the second half was really more about trying to actually get some prospects, get some leads, as opposed to just networking and building your network. But it was also trying to get some leads. And we had, again, like I said, I had this one person who brought in a big piece of business, and a few others that had some smaller pieces, but it was their first win, and it was a very big deal to them.
I
Getting.
mean, I know here at my firm, we hire we give raises and opportunity leadership based on not time necessarily, but how they're contributing. We notice folks that are doing extra, above and beyond, extraordinary,
Yeah.
natural leadership abilities, that they get into a team and then they just start to, you can see that they're kind of taking over that team. They're rising above. And so for here, I know we noticed that, and those people are elevated fairly quickly. Obviously with attorneys, having time and understanding, I can understand the nuances there, but I would assume if you have an associate bringing in business all the time versus other ones that are not, I would assume that they would stand out from the crowd as far as potential to make partnership earlier than usual.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. But they're also, because if you have an associate who's really bringing in some business and really doing a lot of networking, they're really good influencers to their peer group. And so what starts to happen is, I was doing this year after year, like a couple of years in a row, 2, 3 years in a row in some of the firms. You start to instill more of a cultural shift in terms of thinking about growth and business development. And to
Sure.
me, that's where you kind of move the needle. I mean, yes, you can bring in business, and I can measure how many people now are widening their network and reaching out and expanding it to, like, a lot of the accountants like to be with other accountants, but their goal was to meet other practitioners, other
Sure.
service providers. So we measure their success based on the goals that they put out there. And all of that is measurable. But what's really nice is when you see the culture shift. And when at one point I started having the associate level accountants, if you will, come to me and say, next time you have that class, can you please include me in it? I really want to be in this class. So, which was lovely. I mean, it was so nice to hear that. But when you start having that culture shift, I think that's when I think that's a really big deal for the firm. I think that's really reaching that higher level kind of goal for the firm.
Well, sure. We're in business. Everyone listening, that you run a firm or a business, the business has to make money. It has to be profitable. in order to pay folks to give them better opportunities to build teams that they can lead. So if you're not growing, you're not creating opportunities. I know that's our mission here is for
Mhm.
everyone knows if you come work here, we're growing, we're building, we're expanding, and that gives them opportunity to see themselves in whatever position they want to be, whether it's more pay, more security, whatever it may be. But to have the culture you're talking about is something it's kind of harder for I think me to do because I have very like specialized marketing people that are, you know, they're focused on their work and they don't really and they're remote for the most part. So it's a little bit more challenging, especially trying to meet law firms specifically. So it gets a little more challenging. But I know I have like a program. If anyone brings any lead or business, there's a bonus program. If they have a client that they're meeting with for, you know, reviewing marketing metrics or something like that, and they find an opportunity to have where they need to do more with us or recommend something that they end up going with, they get a bonus program for that too. So we've kind of instilled some of those things where, hey, new business here is a good thing. And we need to increase the business here and have that culture. Um, I feel like within law firms, obviously I think it's, at least at the partner level, that's obvious. But I feel like sometimes the rest of the team, all the way down to admin staff and everybody, they should be thinking, how can I bring in business for the firm and the company? How can I represent the company when I'm out and about? That's going to help the company. And having that culture is something I would like to have for sure.
But one of the things what we did also is in terms of each, we had sort of a class, like the class of whatever year kind of thing we fashioned
Okay.
academically in a sense. And when they were done with the class, I put together an event, a networking event that included the associate levels of our partners' contacts. So if they knew partners in other firms, whether it be law firms or wealth advisory firms, we asked them, do you have any associate levels that you would like to do some networking with our folks? And we're putting on this really nice event and we'd love to invite them. And so it was sort of a giving back to the class to say, look, you guys did a great job. Let's put our own event on. Well, I'll help you with it. And you will all be the hosts of this event. This is like having a party at your house and you're going to be inviting guests and you're going to be greeting them and all that. And, they were so appreciative. I had a couple of guests who were there. One was actually from a law firm, very large law firm, who thanked me very much for inviting him. And he said, my firm talks about this, but we never do it. And he said, I'm so glad that you did this. And I really would love to, be a part of this again, if you have it again in the future. And so, that I was a little surprised that they didn't really do things like that. But, I, being at a law firm here, I mean, we're a small law firm, we're mid-size. And, I'm working
68 attorneys or something like that, I believe.
Close to about 70, close to 70 attorneys. Yeah. And
I would call that good size.
Mid-size. Yes. Mid-size. Yeah. It's a mid-size firm. And I'm working, like I said, with a couple of different associates now, kind of on a one-on-one, but eventually I think it would be great to have, I think we're going to end up doing that at some point, a more formalized approach and I also brought in some outside speakers as well, just to kind of break up things and give them different perspectives. That's the other benefit. It's great for the younger professionals to hear from different people and get different perspectives on how to network and not think there's only one way.
Sure.
I mean, it was funny because I had the first class, I had my managing partner in one of my firms. I had him speak and I asked him, could you tell everybody how you got started? And this partner, he was one of the biggest business developers in the firm. He brought in a lot of business, knows so many people. And he said, I'm going to tell you, when I first started, it took me 3 years to get my first client. And everyone looked at him and thought, 3 years. But he said, because it just takes time. He said, I was brand new. I didn't know, and I had to just keep doing it. And I was at a low, younger level, and I had to keep going after it. And then I started bringing in some business. But it took 3 years to get my first, lead. And so the message was, this is a long-term kind of thing. This is not something where you walk into an event and you walk out with a client. This is something you have to really keep at. And I think that having a managing partner or having a very seasoned partner come in and talk about his or her experiences really resonates with the associates and the younger accountants that I worked with.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably just thinking, yeah, this guy or girl is probably always done this, and they know what they're doing.
Exactly. Right.
Versus, no, it took a long time, and I'm reaping the rewards now. But you got to definitely start early with this. And no one's going to trust you. Just walk in a room and give a pitch, and they're going to be like, "Oh, here's some work." Now you might get lucky, but with what you all do, I mean, you don't just randomly pick a firm to work with for like employment law. You have to build a relationship, I would assume, to get in the door for that. So, well, let's cover a few more things. And then, by the way, I assume that events that you put together probably turned out to generate a lot of business for a lot of people.
We made a lot of connections. And what was interesting is, these were the firms that our partners had a relationship with. But some of the associates actually brought out leads from these firms that these partners were not aware of because they were asking the right questions. Sure. So, and to me, that was, I think for the person, it was such a mark of, wow, I'm really getting this now. I can do this kind of thing. And the partners we invited some of the partners to come to it as well, because they're very supportive, and they were praising these younger professionals for what they were doing. And in fact, the whole firm knew who the incoming class was. And then when they graduated and all that, we did a whole big, cool. Internal celebration for all of them as well. Because again, this is part of changing the culture. We wanted people to be top of mind. We wanted to know that the business development and the growth of the firm is top of mind to people.
That's excellent. I love that. One of the things you said too about the associates discovered new leads or opportunities. That's something that I have done here with my team. So say if you were a client, Diane, you might be, I might reach out to you once in a while and say, hey, what's going on? And check. I do very high level. Hey, how's it going? Anything we're messing up or could do better. But other than that, I keep my stuff pretty friendly with my clients. But my team has more in-depth meetings with my clients to go through like what happened last month and last quarter and new marketing initiatives and things we're doing. They're incentivized if they say, hey, Diane, you really need to do this, and we think this would help you. They have no clue about what things cost or how our pricing is or nothing. So they're there we've designed it in a way that they're really making recommendations for what you need. But if that turns into an opportunity, like I might not know that, even though I'm the one that does all the business development here. So they all the time go, hey, I just spoke with Diane, and I was telling her that she could really use this, and they said they want to get a proposal for that. So they're finding opportunities within our clients that I won't probably ever come across because I'm not in there deep with their account. Yeah. And so that's kind of the most that we've done here for that. And that's worked out very well though, to keep an eye out. What more can we do for these clients to help them? And that leads to more business by making those recommendations. So that's something that's worked out pretty well here.
That's great. Yeah.
Okay. So what you had on here, other ways to teach business development. So I definitely want to cover that again for everyone listening in that's going, how can I do this in my firm? I don't have this formalized training or like platform that Diane's probably developed. But how could, what's some other ways that they could teach this to get started?
Yeah. So one thing we did in one of my past firms was once a month. It was like, I think it was a Wednesday morning or something. Or I think it was a Wednesday from 11 to 12 or something. We had a partner give a sort of 20-minute presentation to anybody in the firm who wanted to join it about the type of service that they provide, but not so much from a technical standpoint, but more from a opportunity identification standpoint. In other words, this is what I do. Here's how I help my clients, and here's how to look for the opportunities. Here's where this is a sweet spot, or this is a way to identify whether one of your clients might need this kind of work. And so that was very well attended. And so every month the associates or either the younger professionals or even other partners were being trained on different types of services throughout the firm for either doing cross-selling to their current clients or for just looking on the outside to see if they come across somebody who they
Sure.
think, based on the opportunity, kind of assessment, whether or not this would be a right fit for the firm. So, and that's an easy thing to put together. I mean, it's really just a quick presentation. It was very high level, 20 minutes of, kind of talking about it, and then maybe 10 minutes of a Q&A. And then we had all the presentations were recorded and they were available to anybody should they want to, look at them again and listen to them again and pick up some things. Yeah. So.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, really, you're taking your staff and you're creating like a marketing team or a sales team in a way. So it's almost like I've been to more formalized networking groups where like, you say what you do and what you're looking for, and the point of those groups is that you're trying to have that whole group know what you do and understand it, so that if they're out in their day, like they can say, hey, you know what, Kevin does that. I bet I can connect them. I don't like those kinds of groups. I used to do it when I was starting out, but the point being, you're equipping your staff or associates to be able to identify opportunities and say, you know what, actually Bob or Sally specializes in that and they can help you out and connect the dots. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's easy. It's not that formal. Really, you could even take different aspects of networking, and you can do, here's a tip of the day kind of thing if you want to just make it more top of mind for people. Hey, when was the last time you took your client out to lunch? When was the last time you took a colleague out? So something, just some tip of the day kind of thing. The formalized approach, it is more time consuming, of course, and you do have more sort of administrative managing of it, if you will.
Sure.
But sounds
like it's much more effective.
Yeah, it's a higher probability of having somebody kind of change their behavior to kind of get the kind of results you're looking for. But I did 6 months. Sometimes it was 8 months if I had a few extra like speakers and classes. But you could even do a 3-month or something, just something to kind of do his part 1, part 2, part 3, and focus on event networking. That kind of a thing, which is a kind of a big thing now. The fall is here. People are finally getting out, like,
COVID,
hopefully, right, in the rearview mirror. And that might be a nice thing to do. There's so much you could talk about just with event networking and doing it the right way, so people feel that it's a productive experience. And they also have a comfort level around what they need to do when they get there and not feel that they're, out of their comfort zone, just standing around.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, the formalized version might be a little harder to implement for some folks that are listening, but, and I don't think no one's going to learn or get a habit out of a lunch and learn or like what we call a lightning talk here. I think it's probably good to have a lunch and learn and do something. But I think if that's all you do, you probably won't have quite the results you're looking for. I think, KPIs, if like probably with your training, like tracking, hey, how many lunches did you do this week, or how many events did you do last month? Having some kind of reminder. Oh, actually, I didn't do any. Do I have any lined up this month? Tracking some kind of KPI on it might be a good way to start too. To say, hey, we're going to try to have everyone do one event once a month. Just some starting point.
Yeah, I mean, even now I'm working with a partner on his business development. And that's, I have a tool that I put together for him to be able to track his lunches and meetings, and that's some follow-ups, putting in the events as well, and kind of carving out, hey, this is an event I'm going to. Let me see if I know anybody else from my network that's going there that I can meet up with. So, it's a lot of this, even though I was training the younger professionals, it applies to partners as well. I mean, it really is the same process.
Well, like I said, right now I just took a gentleman from here to a network event. I knew, like, I can't even get to the door. I know so many people there. It's like, Kevin, get, and I haven't been out in a while. So it's literally like I got like 2 or 3 leads and everyone's talking to me. And so I know everyone at this particular event. But that didn't happen overnight. But I don't have a system. I'm not following a process. I just kind of do my thing. And so if I was serious about like local event networking, I would want to get with someone like you and say, hey, I'm just doing my thing and it's working okay, but now I really want to like dial it in and how do I improve, you know? And so a lot of those older partners probably just all did their own thing.
Right.
And they got their own little special way, but they probably don't really have a formalized or a way to track it. They probably go weeks without going to anything, and they probably could be a lot better if they had something in place to track what they're doing.
Yeah,
I
mean, that's a
I'm
good
going to this
point.
event because I know these people, and I'm going to, this is my goal and my plan for this event because it may, have a cost to it, so.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, I had, one partner, he gave his sort of structure, if you will, around how he networks, and he's out 4 times a week. And of course, a lot of the attendees were a little nervous about that because they thought, wow, I have to go from 0 to 4. And, this is how, but he's been doing it for so long, and he spends more of his time business development, looking for new business than doing the client work because he's just at that level as a partner.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that that's what everybody has to do from day one, but which the formalized approach in a sense is nice because they're getting other perspectives and they're also getting the context within which this, tip, if you will, of going 4 times a week, they're getting more of the context of what that really means and how they can translate that for them.
Sure.
In other words, you don't have to do 4. If you do 1 a week, you're doing great. If you do 1 a month and you're just starting out, that's really good. That's 12 times a year. That's pretty good. And once a month, I think everybody could do once a month.
I think so. Everyone listening, if you're not networking or doing business development at least once a month and you're a partner or an owner, you probably need to step it up. So excellent. Well, Diane, thanks so much for sharing. I think this is, for me, this is a unique topic that we've had on here as far as especially looking to the younger folks and associates. And again, I think this could be with everybody in the whole firm, to be honest with you. This could be your admin staff, receptionist. Everyone can contribute, especially if you had some reward program to where they could, get rewarded for this to bring in the work. So I think it's a great cultural shift to consider. So is there anything else you wanted to add or
No, I
leave
think
us with?
I think we covered a lot. No, it just in the end of the day, I think obviously the client work is super important. I mean, this is what they need to do, but the long-standing nature of the entity itself has to remain. It has to keep moving forward, and having not just your partners, but other people in the firm have some skin in the game to help that, I think is a very healthy attitude.
I agree with that. Skin of the game. I like that. So I think it's great. I think everyone, every firm should be, prescribing to this and having something in place. Again, even if it's to start with some workshops or some training or something to get it started. And I talk to firms all the time that are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, the partners, the owners, everybody. So I guarantee you, even the partners don't have any system or reason for what they're doing. They're just kind of going through the motions. So I think this is great. Get some structure in place. Connect with Diane. I'm sure she's happy to share a little bit more if you connect with her. She is on the website, phillipsnizer.com, or LinkedIn. You can just search for her there. She will be connected on some of our posts for this. And if not, you reach out to me. I'll connect you with Diane directly and make sure you get in touch with her. So I guess that's all we got. So Diane, anything else before we go?
No, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
No, hey, thank you so much for being prepared and for sharing all the good things there and different ways that these firms can get started with business development all the way through their firm. And I think it's a great topic, something we should talk about more often, and something that I'm excited about all the time. So I like talking to people. So everyone, have a great day. Get out there, grow your firms, talk to people, network, and then share that knowledge that you're learning or have learned with others. Make sure you're teaching your younger staff and your associates, and it's going to pay off for you in the long run. So, Diane, everyone, have a
All
great
right.
day. We'll see you soon.